The next chapter is chapter 7, Interfacing SQL with Python. So even before we start off with this chapter, there are a few things that are very important to do before you even start the setup. So first is you should have installed SQL. MySQL is a free thing. There is an installation instruction given at the appendix of this lesson. So once you have installed the MySQL server, I would suggest using the MySQL Workbench because Workbench is easier to work and understand than the other versions. So how do I check if MySQL is installed? I go to my services. After installing MySQL Workbench, you can check if it has been installed here. You can type MySQL. You can see a MySQL Workbench installed here, right? So after the MySQL Workbench is installed, while installing itself, try to make sure that you remember your password once you are giving because it will become difficult otherwise to use it. So this is one thing. So MySQL Workbench will look like this for you. And here you have to first connect. So usually the username is root here and your password is whatever password you have set. So this is a much easier interface to work with. In schools, they might use the shell version, the black screen, but this is generally easier for you and you can just go and open a new query tab. And you can just check that everything is working for you. You can create some tables here. So that I will be doing when I'm covering your SQL chapter. Right. So now once MySQL is set, let's come to check if it is on. So when I go to services, I can do the same thing. I can go there and type services. I will come here and just do MySQL 80. So it is running. The status is running. So the startup type usually depends on your system. It could automatically start while your system is starting, or you could make it manual so that you will use it only when you're opening this file. So as of now, it's running for me. So this is all set. Now, the major part comes after this. After you're done with this, you have to now make your system ready for Python and SQL interconnection. So there is an already Python standard library also has a lot of functions, but this is an extra package that you have to install. So you can go to your first is yes, Python setting that with setting the path you would have already done. You can just go there and set the environment variable so that Python is properly added. Otherwise, you will not even be able to execute your Python programs. But more so when you're trying to interconnect Python and MySQL. So to download the MySQL connector, you have to download it from Google itself. You can download it. If you just type MySQL -connector _ Python, it will give you the file. You can just go to your command prompt. So in command prompt, you can just type pip install MySQL -connector. There is also a MySQL connector, so make sure you install the Python one. So if the pip install immediately gives you command not found error, it means that Python itself is not properly set in your system. So that is the first indicator for you. So you have to first confirm that it is done. So here for me, it is saying the requirement is already satisfied because I have already installed this pip install, this MySQL connector Python in my system. So for you, it will take some time. It might take a minute time to slowly go through and install the entire package for you. So once I am done, I can safely close. But if there is an error somewhere here, make sure to you just check the path. The path should have Python set properly. You might have multiple versions of Python in your system. So these are some things which in a lab, it will already be there for you. So you may directly go and execute your programs. Whereas when you're trying it on your own, this is one area which took me a lot of time to figure out when I was first learning Python with SQL. Right? So this step is done. The next step is in your idli. We have to check if everything is proper. Though it says it is fine, we have to go to the shell. And let me try importing. Import MySQL dot. There it was a hyphen, here it is a dot. So there should be no error message. So once I import my MySQL dot connector, it has to not give me any error message. So it means that I have installed my connector successfully. So let me do one thing. Let's go to that SQL and check what all tables are there. So I can use my query, show tables. So let me check, select star from student. So now we will look at the statements one by one. Before we even go for the statements, let's understand what are the functions available in MySQL. The first thing is I have a cursor object. So what is a cursor? A cursor is a space. It's a blinking cursor. When you say a normal cursor, it is the blinking cursor in your screen. Now in Python, let's imagine the cursor as a space for Python and SQL to communicate with each other. So it serves as a link. So what happens when I'm trying to give a command to fetch some details? Then there is a cursor space involved there wherein I have to create a cursor object. And after I create the cursor object, as far your syllabus is concerned, you have only these methods that you have to know. First is there is a fetch one, fetch many, fetch all. There are three commands which is fetching. Fetch always means take something from the database. So basically it is for select statements. So when I say fetch one, as the name itself says, you're going to get only one record from the, when I say select star from students, even there are 5 records, when I say fetch one, it's going to take me only the first record. Then I have to keep on getting the next record and doing calculations based on that. Fetch many is like giving you a specified number of rows. Like I can say fetch many of 5. So it will fetch me 5, maximum 5, right? So instead of a single row, it will get me multiple rows. When I want to take all the results, I will do a fetch call. So these are my 3 methods. Then I have execute. Execute many we are not using here, but I have, yes, execute. Execute is to just execute some query. Like I have to insert, update, delete, then I will be using my execute statement. So ideally, we can close the cursor object, which we are not doing here because we are even closing the connection itself. So we are not doing this. Now, the first important, these are methods which are used for DML, your data manipulation. We can do the same thing with DDL also. So when I say execute and give any command inside, whether it is a show database or a show table or create table, it is going to work as such. In this year, they have included included in the syllabus itself. Even before I have been, all the books will have your parameterized queries because that is the main purpose of using this. And I cannot just give hard-coded queries here. But this year, CBSE has changed the syllabus itself to include parameterized queries, which means you're going to see more of them in your exams also. So how do we establish a connection? So I have a connect function for that. So I am importing I have done that here, and I have to use a connect function. The connect function takes 4 parameters. The first one is your host. It will usually be localhost itself. Then you have your root, and then you have your password. Any password is you have chosen. And then you can give the database name here itself. It is easier because then it will be easy for us to write the program directly. Otherwise, you have to also say use database before starting to do, because you might have multiple databases in your SQL, right? So it could have the same name and there could be many tables. We don't know which table and which is the current database. All these confusions, to avoid all this, you can always mandate the database name here in the connect itself. So I'm going to run this line alone here. I'm going to say connection is equal to, if I don't want to type this again and again, I can always use import MySQL connector as yes. We are going to do that. You can look at more of this in my specific video on the theory book of this. So in that, I would have explained the past board paper questions also on how they are asking this. As far as practical is concerned, I think this is more than enough. So MySQL.connector.connect. So what are all my parameters? So I'm going to have my first parameter is my host is equal to. and I can say user is equal to root. Password fully or pass WD both works. Comma database is equal to test. No error means that it has successfully executed this. So the connection has been created. So once you create a connection, as you said, next step is to create a command. So let's create a command and a cursor. First, I will say my cursor is equal to connection dot cursor. Spelling wrong. Cursor is equal to connection dot cursor. So I have created a space now. Now we can go back to our command. So let's create a command. Command is equal to, in this case, let me say select star from student. Once you do the command, you can have to just say command dot execute. Now, I'm going to select the details. So command dot execute. It is going to execute the command. Cursor dot execute. I'm sorry. Cursor dot execute. So I'm doing from the beginning. So import MySQL.connector as yes. Then I'm going to say connection is equal to, instead of repeating it again, I can just say yes.connect. Remember, it could be a fill in the blanks in your theory exam. So it is better to know different versions of doing the statement. I can even have MySQL.connector.connect, or I can do it as s.connect. Both are going to give me the same answer. I will just start with my host is equal to localhost. And I have my user is equal to root. My password is equal to my password. And my database is equal to test. So I have connected a connection, and now I have to create a cursor. So cursor is equal to connection.cursor. I'm creating a command. Command is equal to select star from student. Now cursor dot execute. What should I execute? I have to execute this command. So always cursor dot execute command is my syntax. So when I execute this command, it is executed. As long as there are no red marks here, there are no errors in the statement. This has to be a full program. We will do that in the next program. But for the first program, this is what I've written also. But I'm trying to do it in the prompt shell itself for you so that you know how each line works. Once you're comfortable with this, we can just copy paste and do it as a single program. Okay. So cursor.execute of command will execute the command. Now I have to fetch all. So now let's copy this into a program. Because I have a for loop, so I cannot use the shell for that. So first line. These are very straightforward lines to remember and by heart. Ideally, they might not test you in the practical on this. It might not be there because the marks has to be equally divided. You have an 8 mark and a 4 mark. So the 8 mark is for Python and the 4 mark is for SQL. So in general, they would avoid to ask you this program, but depends. Your practical, it's entirely the teacher's idea to do that. So 8 marks will be from files, or it could be from stacks or anything. First 8 marks from the practical. Whereas the remaining 4 marks is usually queries based on SQL. So they might or might not ask you to do interfacing. So remember that. Now, the rows is equal to, I can use my fetch all method. cursor dot fetch all. So I have fetched all the details which have been returned, and for row in rows, for each row in rows, print row. Try to run this. Program 1. So there are so many details already stored. It is just printing me all the details. This is your first lab exercise of chapter 7. So let's go to the second lab exercise, which is simple insert query. So I have created a connection, same as before what we did previously. I'm creating a command and a cursor in any order is fine. And I'm executing the command. Till this, there is no change if you look at it. But in this query, I have directly given the values here. Remember, I have given the value here itself to insert. And once I am done, I am committing. So this is an important step when you're doing an insert, update, or delete. Only when you say connection.commit, the changes will be permanent in the database. If you don't use the statement, then the changes will not get reflected in the database. So it is always recommended to use this step. So let me check my screen. I already have Rohan there. So let me add somebody else here now. Let me add a 9. Okay, so let's run this program. It has said record inserted successfully. Now let's go back to our table and let's select this. So let me come down. There is a Murali inserted in the database. If I do not use the commit statement, it will not be inserted there. So that one thing you have to be careful while doing it. So remember it as steps. There are going to be 6 steps in any program that you write. And in exam, it is a 3-mark question. So each step will carry a half a mark for you. So which is very easy to score. The import is 1 dash. If they ask you to fill in the blank, it's for 3 marks. 1 dash is dash. So the dot is very important. MySQL small letters is very important. So if they ask you to do a fill in the blank, you can expect this line definitely to be a blank. And then they will do this line as a blank. Then they can also give you this insert statement as a blank. Cursor.execute command could also be a blank. So only 6 lines that you have to by heart for getting this full 3 marks in this. Let's move to the next program. Lab exercise 3 is searching using a parameterized query. So I have used the %s symbol because many of you, if you're already familiar with C or C++ in your lower grades, it will be easier for you to use it. There are 2 ways of doing parameterized queries and both are given in your textbook as in syllabus. So for a few programs, I've used this percentage notation. In the last program, I also showed you how to use the format function. So select start from. So what are we trying to do here? We are trying to create a query. So till this connection creation is the same for you. So I'm asking the user to enter the student ID whose details you want to search for. So I'm getting that and I'm creating a tuple. Remember, if we have more than one value, I can just say x comma y. Whereas in tuple, we have studied this in 11th standard. If there is only one value in a tuple, you have to put a comma there. So I'm creating a data which has the wherever the parameter has to be substituted, the values are given here. My command is select start from student usually. Now where student ID is equal to %yes. Remember, even though ID is going to be a integer, we can work it as like a string only. We can have to use %yes only. %d will not work because it is going across platforms. Remember, it is going from Python to SQL, from there back. So everything is going to be a string for us. So again, I'm executing the command, but in this case, I'm giving a comma data. I am passing a parameter also. And I'm fetching all the details and I am printing them. So let me run this. So when I say student ID is 9, it is giving me 9 Murali and 100. That is what I entered just now. So the next is going to be the update program, the 4th lab exercise which I've given for you. So the connection remains the same and I'm now giving you 2 parameters. I've just given this because I wanted to show you how to update multiple values. So here I have to get the student ID to be updated as well as the marks to be updated. So I'm getting both of them and creating a tuple as data is equal to B comma A. The order doesn't matter here. The first parameter goes here. The update student set marks is equal to B, where student ID is equal to A. That is how it will span out as. Connection, execute, that's all. It would have executed that command and I can commit this. So I can go back and check if this change has been executed or not. So let's run this. So let's take the same student ID 9 and let me change the mark to 98. So there is no error given so far. So mostly this should have been done. So let's go back to the SQL and we will check this. The marks has been changed to 98. The last lab exercise I've given for you. It is a complete application of a student file, the same student that we have taken. So just to make it comprehensive, I have used all the functions which we have done so far. So first I have started off with select all. So select all is just a simple command, select star from student. So you can see that I have connection and cursor are created above. It is common for all these functions. So the first function is going to fetch all the results and print the results for us. Then insert, I have given you insert as a parameterized query. We did the second exercise as a full statement, right? There's no parameters. Here I have given you parameters. So I have got all these details A, B, C, D, and I have just created a tuple and I have given execute command. Commit. Same way update. Here I have tried to use your format function. You can look at this. This is another syntax. So whichever is easier for you, you can choose that. So if you want to use the percentage yes also, we have done the update function. The fourth exercise was update function for you. So you can use it like that, or you can use the format function. Why I'm giving you the format function is this is there in your syllabus. So they can test you on this. They can give you a fill in the blank and ask you to fill the blank with that statement. So it is not mandatory, but yes, it is not very difficult also. So you just have to put that empty brackets there. That marks equal to instead of percentages, I have put an empty bracket. There also empty bracket dot format A comma B. So it goes in that. So here I have got A as the marks and B as the roll number. So I've given format A comma B. So execute the command and commit. Same for delete also. I just set with the format A. So I think the code is very explanatory, self-explanatory for you. You just have to run this program. So let's first check what is there. I've used a different database here. So let's check the data there. So it is going to have a different set of values, right? Because I didn't want to use the same database and tables. Now let me update. So first they're asking for the marks and then, so let me update my 11 itself. So the marks is going to be 97 for 11. So now let's read it. It has changed to 97. So, but then let's go back here also and check if see the 11 triple E has 97 as the mark. So it has been updated here also. So I think with this one single program, if you can understand the entire crude operations, it is one program that you need to know. Each of this program could be asked as a 3-mark question, separate standalone 3-mark question in your board exam. So if you know this one program thoroughly, if you can understand every statement here, I think you're all set for getting this 4 or 5 marks of interfacing SQL with Python.